Hi, I'm Angela Non.
I'm Ariana Kempis.
And this is BRB Crying.
Welcome, everyone.
Hello there to all you listening.
Hey, crybabies.
Ooh, she said it.
You know what? Okay, I suggested to you last week. I was like, what do you think about tear jerks? Now that I say it out loud, like...
Yeah. As the name for our lovely listeners that actually pay attention to our ramblings.
Yeah.
We wanted to give you a cute nickname. So Arns was like, tear jerks. I mean, it's like, funny.
It's funny, but like, I can see why it's not.
Crybabies is cuter.
Crybabies is cuter. It is cuter.
I think.
Yeah.
So, hello to our little crybabies.
Hey, crybabies.
Hey there.
Welcome to episode 3.
Mm-hmm.
We're back. You thought. But here we are.
Mm-hmm. It's been a whole week.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for you listeners, it's been a whole week.
Yeah.
It's actually been a whole month for us.
Yes.
Because we recorded 2 episodes and I fucked off to Asia after.
Yes.
So
Yes. Worth it.
Yeah, it is.
I know.
I went to Korea. That's why Arns is. She has her little hands up with
I
the.
do. Oh, yeah, sorry.
Called?
I forgot. It's a podcast. You can't see me unless you're watching us.
What is this called? The hearts with the thumbs?
Yeah. I'm not going to pretend I know what it's called.
I think that's the official name is the heart with the thumbs.
Yeah. You know it's official when they made an emoji for it, you know? Mm-hmm. Right? It's an emoji, right?
Yeah. Well, it's like good to be back.
Yeah.
I can't believe it's been a whole month.
I know.
Since our last episode.
Yeah.
I'm excited to cry on the internet again.
Me too.
You know?
I am excited.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole lot that goes into producing this.
Really? Tell me all about it.
So there's a whole lot that goes into it. And so it's always nice when we actually get to sit down and do it.
Yeah.
Do the actual thing that we're here to do.
I know. I feel like you and I kind of wait to have these conversations because I was literally at her house yesterday and we were kind of working on editing the first 2 episodes and there were just like 0 questions asked about like, how's your life?
No.
How's your trip?
I know I wanted to ask about your trip, but I was like, no, it's business time.
I figured you would ask me at some point during this pod.
Yeah.
Will we get into it? I don't know. Is that my topic for today?
Maybe we'll have a Patreon and it'll be like a subscribe if you want the deets.
Ooh. Thanks in advance to my husband for being the only subscriber.
Yes.
He's going to love all of these little shout outs.
I know.
He's going to love it so hard.
Yeah, I know. He really will. God.
I hate that I'm making him like so excited.
I know. His head is like... Anyway.
Well, actually, I will say this. Since you mentioned, or since I'm bragging about the fact that I just came back from Korea, I went to Seoul for a week and I went to Hawaii on the way home for a wedding for like 5 days. I did not cry in Korea. I was like, oh, Seoul, is this my city? I was close though. There was one time that I almost cried and it was because I ate this meal that was so good.
Oh my God.
That it moved me to tears.
What was it?
It's called samgyetang.
Okay.
Butchered it. It's basically a chicken rice porridge soup.
Okay.
Very similar to like our scaldo. If you, Arns and I are Filipino. We grew up on Filipino food.
Yeah.
So it's basically like a rice porridge soup.
Okay.
And the Korean version is a whole chicken that's put in the broth or in each bowl. And inside of the chicken is like sticky rice. It's kind of like stuffing for the chicken. And instead of it being flavored with ginger, which is the Ars Caldo version, they use ginseng. And I like sat down at this restaurant. It was like wildly popular. It was like on everyone's list if you're going to go to Seoul.
Yeah.
And I was like, I whipped out the chopsticks and it's a whole ass chicken. So I'm like, how am I going to cut into this chicken?
Yeah.
I prod it with my chopstick. Oh, fall off the bone. Like so good. And the reason that I got emotional when I was eating it is because well, obviously it was amazing tasting, but I don't know, there's something about Ars Caldo for me personally where it's one of those meals where the moment anyone in my family felt a little bit under the weather, it was what my dad would make. And it was a way for him to kind of like, we have this soup, it'll help you feel better.
Yeah.
It's just this
your comfort food
bowl of love,
yeah.
and it just felt so familiar when I was eating it, and it just felt like, wow, this is a dish that has been prepared for centuries by people that are nourishing their family, just like, yes, exactly. And I was like, oh,
what the fuck?
God.
This is the intro. Oh my God.
I know, but I was just like eating this bowl of soup. I was like thinking of my dad. I was thinking of all of these families that just like, what does food mean?
Yeah.
What does it mean to prepare food for people?
Yeah.
And I was
love
like,
that.
why am I crying for this bowl of chicken?
No, I love that. I think you're right. Oftentimes, our society is so much about efficiency, right? You get the meal prep, you get the stuff delivered.
Yeah.
You make it as fast as you can, so you can move on with your day.
Yeah.
But at least in our culture, it is a labor of love to make food for someone.
Yeah. It's just like there's a physical difference in taste, and just like when you are eating something that is prepared by actual hands, that care whether or not you want this or enjoy it,
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess I'll put the restaurant description in our show notes in case anyone is feeling hungry.
So you didn't cry in Seoul, but you cried on the pod talking about it.
Well, yeah, you have to remember, I was in a foreign country and I was just wanting to not make a scene, in the middle of this restaurant where like all of these people are just going about their day and then you just see someone like openly sobbing over soup.
Yeah, I mean, it could be.
Listen, I know we have a thesis, we have a goal to change the stigma. I just wasn't fully prepared to do that in a new country.
Is that our transition?
I think so, yeah. Because like you said, I did not cry in Seoul.
Yeah.
But the second leg of my trip.
Oh, yes.
Hawaii. Ooh.
Oh.
Well, there were actually 3 cries in those 5 days.
Wow. Okay.
The first one was because I finished a book, which I told you about.
You mean the one that the one you were like, you need to read this. I'm going to buy this for you now. It showed up on my doorstep the next day.
Like, can you read this in a week?
It's only 300 pages. Bitch, the font is like that. 300 pages? But it's microscopic.
Oh, but it's so good. But anyway, we will probably cover that in a future episode.
Oh, yeah.
So if you want to get your homework done early, read The Wishing Game.
The Wishing Game by Meg Schaefer.
Really good book. And we will for sure be covering it at some point on the pod. So if you want to know what the fuck we're talking about, get to it. And then the second cry was just because I went to a wedding.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm always crying at wedding. I don't
Same.
think I've ever gone to a wedding where I did not cry.
Me too. Yeah.
We both went to a wedding, actually.
We did?
During this time
Yes, we
off.
did. Yes. Both cried at these weddings.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I fucking love a wedding.
Yeah.
Those are always very joyful, happy tears.
Yeah.
But my last cry,
And that's what you're talking about today?
my last cry is what I'll be talking about today. And this cry was a sad cry. It was a very sad cry. And the cry level was like 7, 8.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. We had to do it at some point.
You're not sorry, though.
No, I'm not sorry. We had to do it at some point. But yeah, what I'm going to be sharing is going to be very vulnerable, but I think that it will resonate with hopefully people, because this is not a side that we talk about ever. So today I'm going to be talking about my experience with PMDD. What's PMDD? Oh my God, you don't know? You don't know what PMDD is? Like, what the hell? PMDD is Pre-Menstrual Dysphoric Disorder. And I think we obviously all know what PMS is. And it's just basically, it stands for premenstrual syndrome. And it's when a person who menstruates, their body is basically preparing for this cycle, and the hormones in their body are spiking and lowering, and there's a lot of imbalances in the body. There's irritability, there's food cravings, there's bloating, there's all of this stuff, and mood swings that happen during this phase. And for people who have PMDD, these symptoms are every month, and they are so severe that they hinder you being able to function normally. And for me, the worst parts of my PMDD are these very, very intense bouts of depression, just like really, really heavy. And I didn't really even know that PMDD was a thing. I just happened to be scrolling on Twitter one day, and some person was talking about it and was like, this affects 10% of women, which I think,
Whoa, 10%?
that honestly sounds low to me. I mean, so I'm going to be sharing some sources from like the Cleveland Clinic, the Hopkins Medicine Journal, the Mayo Clinic. And yeah, it says 8 to 10% of people who menstruate could potentially have this. But what frustrates me about it is that, like, what if I wasn't on Twitter that day and I didn't learn about this and I just never heard that this was a thing?
Yeah.
Then I would just continue my whole life thinking, oh, I just have PMS. And I don't know, I just feel like there is just not enough education on women's health, and it's like a taboo.
Yeah.
You know? We get our periods when we're in middle school, and you have to keep it a secret. Like, the biggest shame is like bleeding you know, like
I still feel that shame sometimes. I literally, like 2 nights ago, I told Joe, I'm like, sorry, there's blood all over the sheets. And it was like, I was apologizing.
right.
You know?
And there's just a lot of discomfort that literally half the people on Earth experience once a month. And we kind of just have to pretend that we're okay. There's a lot of masking.
Yes.
Right? Like, the ideal situation is that you would never know that I'm going through this, because in our society, you just have to act like you're fine.
Yeah.
You are totally comfortable. Everything's great.
Because it makes other people uncomfortable, right?
Exactly.
Supposedly.
Yeah. So, I'm not a doctor. Did you know that?
Wait, what?
So I know that I was talking about a lot of like medical things, and if any of this resonates with you, obviously go to your physician and see what they think, because I am a professional crier, not a professional doctor.
Yeah. Yes. Ooh. Professional crier. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I read about it. I think this was like probably 2020, where I didn't have anything else to do, so I was just on my phone constantly. And I learned about this, and I visited my gynecologist, and we talked about this, and it's like we were talking about like how to treat it. And there really isn't much that you can do. One of the options was taking antidepressants every 2 weeks, or like the 2 weeks before your period.
Okay.
And your body takes 3 months to even get used to it. And my cycle isn't necessarily exactly regular. So how am I supposed to know?
The 2 weeks before.
Yeah. So it's just like, it didn't make sense for me to consider that route. And I will say that now that I am aware of this, there's a lot of holistic things that I do to try to mitigate the intensity of it. So having my routine is really important. Eating certain foods during this time is really important.
Like what foods?
Like a lot of like fibrous foods, a lot of like leafy greens and things like that. But I was on vacation. And so I was completely in a new environment, and I was in Seoul. So I was eating whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
I'm going to eat everything when I'm on vacation. I don't care.
Sorry, I can only have leafy greens here in Seoul.
Can you imagine? Excuse you. I'm not going to do that. So yeah, I was choosing to just enjoy the moment. And it also has been a pretty long time since I've had a really intense bout. My husband and I call them bouts.
Yes.
Just because I work from home most of the time, and when they happen, I'm usually in a safe space.
Yeah.
And I can just like sleep it off or whatever. I can just stay at home. But honestly, they can happen at any time. And for this particular case, I was on vacation when it happened. And so this was the very last full day of our trip. It was Sunday night. We were going to fly home from Hawaii on Monday. And the whole trip, I have to say, I fucking loved every second of this vacation. I just loved it so much. Like, Seoul was amazing. Our time in Hawaii was amazing. Like, seeing my college friends get married, like, oh, what a joy.
Yeah.
But the exhaustion did catch up to me.
Yeah.
And, weddings are such social events that, your battery is kind of drained at the end of the night. So on Sunday, which was our last day, I think everyone wants to approach the last day of their vacation of like, oh, let's not waste it. We go home tomorrow, back to reality, like, let's live it up, So my husband and I, we had reservations for dinner. We go to dinner, and I'm realizing that my mood is starting to get a little low. And I'm getting like a little bit irritable, but still I'm just kind of chalking it up to like, my husband is the only person I've talked to in 15 days. So I still enjoyed the dinner, and we drove there, and then we headed back to the main strip of Waikiki, which is where our hotel was. And, we had plans for the evening. The couple that got married was actually hosting like a happy hour, and then we wanted to go, just walk downtown and just walk around, just enjoy the last evening. Yes, stroll. The word in Tagalog is pasyal.
Pasyal.
Pasyal. So I could already tell that something was happening, but I was, trying to act like I was okay, putting on this brave face, right? And we get back to the hotel and we drop off the car rental at the lobby. And then I actually asked my husband if we can just go straight to walking around Waikiki. And he was like, well, can we just go back up to the room really quick because I need to use restroom, whatever. And in my mind, I was thinking to myself, very quickly, I was already hesitant to go back to the room because I knew that the moment that I closed the door, I would allow myself, I would finally feel comfortable enough to just let it drain me.
Yeah.
And I didn't really want to argue. So I was like, okay, that's fine. We can go up to the room. And we go up to the room and he goes to the restroom and I sit down on the bed and I feel it.
Yeah.
I think that if I try to describe what it feels like after the pandemic, I think this generation is a lot more comfortable talking about mental health. Mm-hmm. And it feels like a safer space to share this side of you. But in the same vein, it's talked about so much that I find that the word depression we've kind of just replaced that with the word sadness. It's
yeah.
Oh my God, that movie was so depressing. Mm-hmm. God, I was so depressed after reading that book. And, I'm guilty of it.
Very casually thrown
around. I 100% do that all the time.
Yeah.
But the thing is that when I get to these places where this PMDD hits me and depression hits me, it is a sadness that is all consuming. I become paralyzed in my sadness. I can't move. I can't talk. And it's ironic because even though I can't physically say anything, it's the thoughts in my head are on a microphone. And it's so loud and the thoughts are racing. And my body is just very overstimulated. And it's kind of I become inert. It's the objects in motion stay in motion, mm-hmm. and objects that are at rest, they're not fucking moving. That's how I felt. I think that's why I didn't want to go back up to the room.
Yeah.
Because if I just kept
going,
you
knew what would happen.
I could continue it. But the moment that I was in that hotel room, just on the bed, I was I don't know that I can get back up. Yeah, it's such a frustrating feeling because it's I know what's physically happening in my head. I know that it's a chemical imbalance. I know that the serotonin levels have just dropped. But it feels like you're not in control of your body. Mm-hmm. And I think that with emotions, especially for women, it's you are trained to always be in control of it. Do not be reactive. Do not make a scene. Do not show that you are anything but perfectly fine. So obviously I tell my husband, he knows that it's happening and he's an angel and he helps me with this all the time. And there is kind of a routine where if it happens when I'm at home, he just kind of lays with me. But because it was the last night of our vacation, I didn't want to disappoint him. So I could tell that he would have still wanted to walk around or do something that evening if we could help it. So I'm like, okay, let me try to do this. Let me get up and let's walk around. Maybe the walk will be better because you talk to your therapist and they're like, if you're feeling depressed, go for a walk. Like that'll cure it.
Yeah. Just get in the sun. A little vitamin D. That's what you need.
Yeah. So doctor's orders. I went outside and I was not supposed to be on the walk. Like I was just kind of a shell of myself. And we were walking on the sidewalk and, there's a road right there and there's a car that's stopped at a light. His top is down. This guy's like
drop top cruising the streets.
Oh, 100%. And the universe, I think, was like, what is the most annoying song that we could play in this moment? That this guy like rolled his volume all the way up to max, like obviously just wanting to make a scene because it was the main strip of Waikiki and he was at a red light. Yeah. It was the song that's me so home. Like, can you imagine being in the depths of depression? Like someone was really like,
Okay, can I just say, I didn't think that's where this was going. I was racking my brain. I was like, in my head, I was like, can I guess it? Can I guess it?
The most obnoxious song.
Oh my God. He was talking like, damn, I'm so cool right now. Shit.
Laughing now was not laughing then.
No.
So shortly after that, my husband's like, okay, I don't know that this is helping. Let's go back.
Right. God. He wanted to wait for the song to finish though, and then he was like, all right.
Yeah. So when we got back to the hotel room, I sat back on the bed and I kind of just asked my husband if he could help me get ready for bed. And literally like, can you help me take off my makeup? Can you help me brush my teeth? And can you help me get into pajamas? And he so gently helped me do this. And I was kind of like having like an out-of-body experience where it was like I was watching him change my clothes. And my immediate thought was, God, Angela, like, get your shit together and just change yourself. You're being traumatic. You're being ridiculous. You're being unreasonable. And you're just acting out. And then once we had finally settled into bed, I was thinking about how, again, like, God, I'm being ridiculous. Like, just fucking get over this and don't make your husband do all this stupid shit. And this is where I started crying. This is when, after all of this darkness, I was overcome with tears. Like, we were just lying in bed at this point, and I just was sobbing because on one hand, I was thinking that, God, like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, this is dumb, what you're doing right now. And then on the other hand, it was, why do I have to deny myself this moment where I am not in control of what I'm feeling? Why is my mind automatically trying to make excuses, minimize my pain? Because we're always conditioned to not be difficult.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a really heavy evening. And
I don't know that I have really anything insightful to add. I think it's really just me sharing that I know that I'm not the only one that feels these bouts of depression or has instability with their mental health. Mm-hmm. And even if you scientifically know what's happening, it doesn't really make it easier because you still feel so out of control. But if I can provide anyone comfort by knowing that, hey, at least you're not alone in that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Hopefully that is one small positive.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Thank you for sharing and giving all that context too, because I didn't know about PMDD until you first shared with me everything you were going through, because that's not something that I've experienced. But 10% of people that menstruate experiencing this, and possibly more.
It has to
That's
be
a
more.
lot.
Because who knows about this even?
Yeah.
That's the part that frustrates me. It's that many people may have it and they just think, oh no, that's just normal.
Yeah.
That's just what I have to go through every month. And
yes,
it's frustrating because even though I know that it's not normal, there's not really a lot that can be done.
Yeah.
Like, even if I am really good with my diet and my routine, they still happen, just maybe not as intensely.
Yeah.
But it's just something that we have to live with. But yeah, I think that's the part that really made me very emotional in that moment, because even as we are venturing out to do this podcast and have these conversations where we are leaning into the emotions and we're leaning into being comfortable with the vulnerability, it's like my brain is still wired to think, no, get a hold of yourself. Mm-hmm. You know?
Yeah.
It's like, why?
But I mean, that's a lifetime of unlearning.
Right. Yeah.
We all have to do.
Yeah.
And not to detract from the severity of everything that you go through monthly when you do have these bouts. But when you said silver lining or small positive, the first thing that jumped to me, or also when you were saying that your mind was, you were lying there and you were thinking about these two things, like get a hold of yourself, and my thoughts jumped to, thank God you have someone that can take care of you and support you and carry you through those moments, because there are people out there who are going through this alone, and it may not ease the symptoms that you're feeling, but to have someone be able to brush your teeth for you and do that for you when you can't do it yourself. I'm grateful to Lou that he can be that support for you. I'm grateful that you have that support when you go through that, and you have someone who is familiar with it and can help you regulate.
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine doing that alone.
Yeah.
You're not alone.
Yeah.
Period. You're not alone.
Period.
Oh my gosh.
What the fuck?
Oh God.
Yeah. I felt really heavy. It feels very scary to talk about that so openly and just share a moment that is very unglamorous, because I'm on vacation, so you're going to see all my fucking fun-ass IG stories and whatever. But yeah, everything's fake.
Everything's fake. Nothing's real.
Nothing's real,
No.
you know?
Well, thank you for sharing. That's a hard thing to go through.
It is a very hard thing to go through. Period. Okay. Fucking switch gears here.
Anyways.
Give me a different topic.
I will. Okay, so cry level. Mm-hmm. Like a 1.
Okay.
1 or 2.
Yeah, get me out of this fucking...
Yeah.
Jesus
Let me
Christ.
just reach in there and pull you out. Yes, so today I am going to talk about a song.
Ooh.
Yes. I wasn't originally going to talk about this, but then it came on my feed and I cried again and I was like, okay, let's talk about this.
Okay.
So I'm going to talk about the song Carmen by Olivia Dean. I don't know if you've heard it. It's not one of, I would say not one of her most popular songs.
Okay.
It's on her newest album, Messy.
Okay.
It's, I think, the closing song. But of course, I will give you the context that you so deserve.
Yes.
Okay, so Olivia Dean is an English singer-songwriter, and her genre is neo soul. And I was introduced to her by my cousin, Angelica, a couple years ago. Shout out Jelly Pie. But it honestly changed my life. I feel like I say that so much that it cheapens the phrase. But you know what?
I was just thinking that.
Sorry, my life gets changed so easily. Whatever. So I've truly been obsessed with her ever since. She is, oh my God. I mean, she is exceptional. She's pretty young. She's only 25, I think. But she has such an old soul and incredible lyricist, incredible musician and singer, gorgeous, fucking cherry on top. She is gorgeous and she's just really cool. And I was trying to think about the words to describe her, and she's just so timeless. I feel like watching her is like watching someone who in 50 years you're going to be like, wow. Like, and also I feel like she could be from any era and she would just slip right in and, you know. So her ethnic background is her mother is Jamaican, Guyana, and her dad is English. So her grandmother is from Guyana. So a little bit more about Olivia Dean. So I think in 2019, her song "Okay, Love You Bye" blew up, and that's kind of what catapulted her musical career. And she came out with an album, Messy, last year, and she toured. She had a North American tour, and of course, I watched her live. And if I wasn't already in love with her, oh my God, in person, she just lights up the room. And you know how British people are just so funny? They're all just so funny.
Oh my God.
I don't really get it. They're all so funny.
Yeah.
So she's hilarious. And yeah, so we watched her show, and yeah, she's been blowing up recently too. She was at Coachella. So yeah, I feel like she's gaining a lot of traction.
Yeah.
I think that the world is finally seeing like, oh my God, who the fuck is this?
Yeah.
So yes. So the song Carmen is a tribute to her grandmother. And her grandmother was part of the Windrush generation, which I didn't know anything about. And this is from Haringey, London, and Shabaka. Those are my two sources when I was looking into what the Windrush generation was. So basically, between 1948 and 1971, there was an influx of immigrants from the Caribbean, and they helped shape the UK completely. You know, diversified the culture and the food, and there was just so much vibrance and color they left in their wake. And obviously, that's not to say that they're not still struggling. Systemic racism is still very much prevalent, as it is here in the U.S. So that's a little bit of background on the Windrush generation. Very similar to our parents' and grandparents' stories of immigration. And I think that's where I felt a lot of significance here. So the song is called Carmen, named after her grandma. And whenever she performs it, she always says, yeah, I love my I am not going to attempt a British accent right now, especially one as beautiful as hers. But she talks about how she loves her granny so much. And at one point they shared a room together, and she's just, she loves her grandma. And I knew what the song Carmen was about because I had heard it on her album, but I didn't feel as connected and moved by it until we watched her live. And I think that I should probably just play it a little bit for you, just so that you are reminded.
Yeah. I love context. God.
I know. Yes. Okay, so I just played the song for Nins. Well, I played the song and I showed her the lyrics alongside it. And then I showed her one of the carousel slides from Olivia Dean's post about performing it. And it was her singing the song. Mm-hmm. So when Olivia Dean introduces this song, she says this is her tribute to the Windrush generation and her grandmother who immigrated when she was 18. The lyrics are, first time on a plane, 18 you came, you found a door and held it open. And she says this is to every immigrant out there who made that trek. And I think there are a lot of lines in the song that make me pretty emotional. She says, you found a door and held it open. No way to know how to make a home in someone else's motherland. You transplanted a family tree and a part of it grew into me. And later in the song, she says, you reigned over a family tree and I'll carefully carry the seeds. And in this video, I don't even think if you knew what it was about, because it's so upbeat, it's so lively, it's so joyful. I don't even think it would register that, my God, she's performing in front of thousands and thousands and thousands of people, millions of people listening all over the world, and she's singing about her grandma. And it's so beautiful that then here are these people screaming the lyrics at her, shout, and there's a point in the video where she's singing and whenever I see her perform this, I think it's emotional because she feels emotional, and I'm sure because I can read her mind. I'm sure she's like, wow, these people who are paying this tribute to my grandmother. And she says, never had your Jubilee, I'll throw it for you. And that's the Jubilee. This is her, all of this community all over the world celebrating this woman. It's overwhelming. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, when we were listening to the song, already beautiful, but you're right. It's like when you are hearing a crowd of people shout Carmen.
Yeah.
You're right. Like she did what she said she would in the song.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so beautiful.
Yeah, it really is. And it's such a great song too. And she uses the steel pan as one of the instruments, which she says is a really emotional instrument for her. And so she incorporates that so beautifully. Mm-hmm. And I think that as descendants of immigrants, we talk so much about sacrifice and how hard it was for our grandparents and parents before us to come to a country where they, to uproot their entire lives. And that's kind of similar to what she's saying. But I don't think that we take the time to really celebrate we are here now. Like, look at all this love that has come from your love, all this abundance that we are now basking in. And I attended a Zoom meeting last week. It was hosted by Vela New Orleans. It was a Palestine teach-in, and one of the speakers was someone that she's an activist, a social activist that I follow, Bianca Mabute-Lui. And I got tickets to attend the teach-in, and the premise was talking about, as the AAPI community, how do we keep the momentum going for a free Palestine? And the moderator, her name is Dr. Jackie Tan. She said something so beautiful that it has been seared in my brain ever since. She said, intergenerational trauma doesn't necessarily have to be our narrative. It can be intergenerational power. And I was like, holy fuck. Again, we kind of beat it over the head a little bit, like, fuck, they worked so hard. We're so, obviously we're so grateful for everything that they did for us, for bending over backwards and giving up their lives. I don't think we just, like, we don't really sit in the moment and think about like just the gratitude part and just the celebration part. It's so heavy, this burden, this intergenerational trauma that, is passed down to us. It's so heavy. Sometimes I don't think it's nice. I think that it's necessary. We need to celebrate that.
Like, honor their bravery.
Yeah. Yeah.
I always think about, I don't remember the exact quote, but the idea of wanting a better life, right? That's kind of the mindset of an immigrant. But if you expand on that, it's like, they don't want a better life for themselves. When they go to this new country, they know it's going to be hard. They know that it's going to be a life full of struggle. They're not thinking about building a better life for them.
Yeah.
They're thinking about building a better life for their children.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or spoiled children that are complaining about trauma all day long.
No, it is a privilege to be feeling these things. And I think that we forget that we come from a place of such abundance and power, and no one can take that away from us. And if only we were all so beautiful and could sing as well as Olivia Dean and had that kind of stardom to catapult that message. It is truly a tribute to all immigrants out there.
Yeah.
You deserve to be celebrated, not just thanked, but truly, have your jubilee throne, given your flowers,
Yeah. I always think about, like, I'm 31. What was my mom doing at 31?
Oh my God.
You know what I mean? She was raising 2 kids in a country that was not her birthplace. We take it for granted.
Yes.
And we don't really dwell on what that really meant for them.
Yes. And when we do, it's like, God, it was so hard for you. And we're talking about how hard it was. And not like, here are the fruits of your labor. Enjoy the fruits of your own labor.
Yeah. Look at what you built.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you, Olivia Dean. Before, when I would hear that song, I would be like, yeah, this is sick,
Yeah.
But now I cry every time.
I feel like people do that all the time. We're like, sick beat,
Yeah. Cool.
nice melody, no idea what it's about.
No.
I love that though. I love learning what songs are about.
Yeah.
Because then every time you listen, you're like, the whole ass story here.
The whole story.
I love that.
Yeah. So it wasn't
a good one.
It wasn't a huge outpouring of tears.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, sometimes when I hear it, if I'm on my period, right now, I feel it a little bit more
Yeah.
deeply. And when I was searching YouTube videos trying to pick which one I was going to show you. The comments are like, I don't know how people don't cry every time they hear this. I don't know how she doesn't cry every time. Or it'll be like, I'm watching her hold back her tears in this performance and I too am crying. God, it's so good. It's so beautiful.
It is really beautiful.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing, because I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, me too. That's why I talked about it.
Love you, Carmen.
Love you, truly. Oh my God. Yeah, and she's featured at the beginning and end of the song, and when Olivia Dean performs it, and her grandma speaks, she's standing there and she puts her hand on her and she just like closes her eyes and you know how oftentimes I don't know if you were like this, but I was always like kind of a little embarrassed of like parents and grandparents when you're growing up, but I mean she just sits there and she like basks in the glory of this woman.
Wow.
Yeah. So there you have it.
There you have it.
Episode 3.
Episode 3. It was a hard one for me, but I think I had to do it.
Yeah.
It was just so fresh.
Yeah.
And so raw.
And I think that if you didn't do it, that in itself would be a form of masking.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember when we finished episode 2, I was like, I don't know what to do now. What am I going to talk about? Fuck.
I can't wait until, so we both have our lists, right? I can't wait until I get through that list and I get to just talk about like me having a hard time putting on a false eyelash. You know? And
the episode's like 100 minutes long. And it was just so hard.
Honestly, there's a lot there. God. We're not here to judge. So.
Yeah. I think I just want to reiterate that I know that I've said this in our past 2 episodes, and although this one was particularly heavy, I think that our whole thesis is that there's so many different reasons to cry. And this one today just happened to be a heavy one for me, but I definitely enjoy the act of crying still. It is a release. It's a way for us to just tap into all sorts of emotions, whether they're heavy or lighthearted and joyful.
Yeah.
So if this is your first episode, they're not always like this. They're a lot more.
Again, we are not medical professionals.
Not medical professionals. No. We are professional bullshitters, actually. So there's going to be a lot more of that. But we're also human too. So it'll be a mix of both. Yeah. But we'll find a dumbass joke in there somewhere.
Catch you off guard. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, thank you all for tuning in. As always, you can find us on all socials at beerbcrying.podcast. If you'd love to share a story about something that made you cry, you can submit a form on our website, beerbcryingpodcast.com, or you can email us at hello@beerbcryingpodcast.com.
Yeah. Oh, I hope people submit. I would love to hear from them. Our little crybabies.
Our crybabies. Our professional bullshitters. Join the club.
Yeah. I guess that's it for now.
Yes.
We'll be back.
We will. Just you wait. We'll be back.
I got more shit to say, dude. Oh, Jesus Christ. But until then.
BRB crying.